how can we get our talent adaptable, resilient? The world around us is changing, and you hear that quite a lot. Be it the political landscape, financial, or even our org structures and models keep changing. And how do we have our talent navigate those grays? And I believe that I think having this kind of broad capability comes from really stretching our talents, moving them across functions and businesses.
I wanted to start with this. How can talent management evolve to cultivate potential and capabilities alongside traditional competency models? So I just want to remind us we're in 2025, and I think a lot of competency models might have been invented around about 1950, maybe before. So I'm just kind of putting that out there, that maybe there's a different way of looking at this. So who wants to start with that? How can we reimagine and almost evolve talent to cultivate potential and still link to those traditional competency models?
I think cultivating potential really requires us to take risks with people. I think looking beyond that 100% match to a fixed set of skills that you often see in traditional competency models. We really need to look at how can we get our talent adaptable, resilient? The world around us is changing, and you hear that quite a lot. Be it the political landscape, financial, or even our org structures and models keep changing. And how do we have our talent navigate those grays? And I believe that I think having this kind of broad capability comes from really stretching our talents, moving them across functions and businesses. Exposing them to different parts of critical experiences, because time and again I see that when leaders themselves have moved across functions and businesses, they're much more open to providing those same opportunities for people below. And those boundaries kind of disappear, these org boundaries.
And there's a link to our earlier conversation about that whole collaborative spirit and partnerships and so on, where I think we are both asking a lot of talent to be a lot more versatile, right? And also I think talent is saying, I want more choice. It's like, that should be a beautiful fusion of need, but it's a lot more complex than that, isn't it? Marquisa, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I would say it's very complex, and I think I would say when I came into this role 3 years ago, what we did is we looked at our processes first. We said, okay, outside of competencies, let's take a look at our practices, our processes, and are they delivering to the business in the way that the business would tolerate? So we went through, we revamped all of our processes and practices, elevated them to deliver to the business, and then we were positioned when change came. That we really could focus on employee experience and really co-creating, asking, what would you like to experience? What's important to you? And then our practices were pretty much aligned and ready. We revamped our talent management, I would say, framework to elevate it as well for where we were today in the business. And it was fortuitous because now we have a new global strategy, new culture transformation, and we were actually well positioned to really focus on looking at potential and having different types of conversations with our talents.
And it's sometimes hard to look at your processes with a critical eye to kind of go, well, they've got us here, but it sounds like you were saying, but they're not going to get us there. So you revamped them quite considerably. Did you kind of slash and burn and start again? You did, right? Wow.
We put them through. We asked the questions. We tracked metrics. We said, what's working? What's not working? What can we pause? Understanding we were kind and gentle. So some we sunset or we put on pause, but we really challenged ourselves and really articulated that back to within our own community to say, this is what we think we need now. And then we got the support from the business and implemented that and socialized it.
Yeah, I mean, how long did that take you? I'm just thinking about duration.
It was over 3 years ago.
3 years. Wow.
It took about 3 years because we did it piece by piece.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And the team was evolving as well, but we took the time, and that really positioned us to be able to answer some of the other demands coming from the business.
I think that's important, isn't it, as well, because you don't want to switch off your talent tap and kind of go, no, we're rebuilding, thanks very much. You've got to take a diversion and look after yourselves for 3 years. That's a little bit like career damage. So you're running legacy and iterative updates at the same time.
Yeah, it was really under the mindset of continuous improvement. So it wasn't necessarily a complete overhaul. It was what incremental changes. Some things we said, okay, it's not working how we thought. We revamped some processes, and then we were able to keep some things and say, maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe we'll bring it back later, which we did with our kind of our internal leadership
Nice.
development within our business.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sometimes.
And that, I think, talks to what you were opening up with, Nithya, which is about different pathways. And, you don't have to kind of stop the roundabout or push everybody in a certain direction. You can do lots of multiple streams of activity.
Yeah, because I think, active listening is absolutely important. I think
Yeah.
gone are the days when you had, a talent system where
Yeah.
you said, hey, we are doing the assessment for you,
Yeah.
we decide which box, you
Yeah.
fit in, and
Yeah.
here's your
Yeah.
career path. And
Yeah.
people don't want those kind of
No.
career paths. It's more fluid now.
Yeah.
People want opportunities. And I've seen Alstrom so many people that have moved from, procurement to the business,
Yeah.
business to operations,
Yeah.
plant manager to, it's just
Yeah.
so many possibilities.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
do we document everything and make it, a fantastic career lattice or a ladder? Perhaps not, but I think a lot of it comes with the action, where people can see that movement happening.
I guess if I'm thinking I'm the head of procurement, I might have an inbound problem, but not an outbound one. But anyway, that's just me calling procurement out. Is there something in that then about how people are sort of engineering things themselves, but within a structure and a framework that we create? Is it a lot more individual intention that's mapped to some of these options that you talk about?
I mean, it has to be a combination of both, right? For example, at Alstrom, we do a program called Jump, where we, look at early talent and give them, a combination of tools to help them look at, because it's not just about providing opportunities, but it's also, for someone to say, this is my aspiration.
Sure.
Of course, at the end, it has to fit the organizational context. So in this program, we look at early talent, we give them the opportunity over almost a 10-month program.
Wow.
To, to see, different, periods in time where they look at mentoring, they have tools for leadership development. A lot of it is self-reflection as well. On what works for them, and also forming connections within the organization, networks within the organization. So it's a combination of all of this to basically also give them the tools to think for themselves. What do I want to do? How do I contribute?
Yeah, nice. And Marquise, if I go back to the whole concept of purpose, was the kind of purpose factor of, because you've got so many different business lines at BASF, right? And they've probably all got their own purpose. Was that an important determinant as like a North Star for your talent development? And did that feature heavily or?
I would say it came from my experience as an HR business partner.
Yeah.
Before I was in this role, I was the head of HR for the same business in North America.
Right.
So I understood kind of the things that I know the business would roll their eyes at and say, well, sure, we're not going to do that, but sure. So when I came into the role, I had an idea of, and I would communicate that to my team and said, think about it from this perspective. How can we make it so it's a little bit easier, it's a little bit more tangible for the business, and then we get more buy-in. And so that's been helpful.
Nice. And from what I see from some research and some studies and so on, whether it's sort of Gartner, McKinsey or whatever, the thing that keeps a lot of CEOs anxious is talent. Have I got the right talent, enough talent for the future? It is also capitalization and everything else, right? I'm not denying those. But talent seems to be the thing that they don't feel like they have an instant answer to. So was that any part of what's going on here? How you can almost like assure senior leaders that we've got this, we're going to help you with the talent stack underneath? Yeah.
Yes, and so one way that we were able to show that is we made sure that we use Visier for our data management. And so we worked with our HR business partners globally to say, this is our single point of truth. And this is what we use to report so that we can confidently report and say this is what we're focused on to give confidence to the business and where our talent pools are and where we see gaps. Let's say from a global community, we have some global communities like controlling and operations. Then we also look there to span across our business globally to say, where do we see gaps? Where do we see common themes, or we can pull the group together and support the pipeline.
And leadership in the examples you're thinking about, Nithya?
Yeah, I mean, it's some, I think, populations, they're always a bit more challenging in terms of pipeline. But, in fact, we were talking about this just a few days ago, saying, do we truly not have, a pipeline below, or are we not seeing it, or are we not, giving people the opportunity, to come up? Maybe we don't need to make it like this is the role you go to tomorrow, but just give them the opportunity because it has to be intentional. People just don't rise to the top automatically if we don't provide those opportunities.
Yeah. And do you see things like impatience perhaps in people new to the workplace who see people in senior positions and think, well, I feel pretty competent, I could do that, and they get a little bit they want to rush through? Does that energy come through? You see that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What we see in our broader organization is that people see growth and potential more so on the business side. So everyone wants to be a business leader.
Yeah.
And the operations and let's say the functions maybe are perceived less desirable.
Okay.
And so it's also educating our leaders to talk about their roles a little bit differently in their parts of the organization, and also educating our employees on what the opportunities are. And it's challenging because we've had so much change.
Yeah.
So we're highly decentralized. We have 12 operating divisions. We just restructured, so we have standalone businesses, core businesses, dissolution of the region. So there's a lot of questions about what's my path.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think this is where the conversation between leaders and employee are really important to help provide context and clarity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just stereotyping younger generations, but you do see a lot of TikTok narrative, which is almost like, I'm not having this kind of leadership around me, and they're calling it out. And of course, we heard from Olga earlier on about the opt-out kind of generation stuff too. That should worry us, because we've got an aging population, and we need a kind of healthy intake of people who are going to be into this for the right reasons. So I guess we have to look at talent management differently, not just because of an age and perhaps a social appreciation that they have for aspirations, but it's the right thing to do, right?
I mean, I think we really need forums where, people can, there are forums to listen.
Yeah.
That we have, I don't know, whatever tool it is, be it a survey, be it, a focus group, that we have, we are able to, in the organization, have methods of listening and getting feedback. I think that's the key, because, I mean, whatever talent model we use or methodology we use, every 4 years, every 3 years, we need to relook at that and see, does it still make sense? Do we need to change it? And that only comes from, making sure we have those forums that we are getting feedback from the organization. In fact, I mean, if you look at Alstrom, for example, you mentioned that you have people that want to do certain roles, and there are, a lot of people saying, I can do it tomorrow, but sometimes we've had issues where we have 0 applicants. And it's like, what is the issue? Is it that it's not visible? Do we need to educate more? So we did a lot of that in terms of, do we, showcase that a career path does not need to be just vertical, that there are different options, to gain those experiences.
And I guess we're seeing some adaptations in what we expect from work-ready people, right? So we're not just saying you have to have degrees from a red brick university, but what's your life experience? What can we actually provide for you that can supplement and or boost your choice to opt out of higher education and stuff like that? So, I mean, are you seeing those sort of things feature in your strategies and tactics about almost like the workplace becomes a bit of an academy, I guess is what I'm saying?
Well, we do have a PM Academy, which helps too.
Great.
And we actually redesigned it and launched it this year to focus, to give employees a bit more insight of what's available from a learning and development standpoint. But what I can say is, because we have such a high tenure workforce and highly technical workforce that grew up in the organization and ascended to these higher level, let's say, leadership roles, it's really giving them the skills to be able to assess talent across different disciplines within the organization, outside the organization, that allows them to think a little bit differently. And this is where I think as HR, we can influence them to help challenge the mindset. Because usually they want, the replica of the person that just left the job.
Of course.
And sometimes that's just not possible, in the market. So depending on where you are and what's available. I think some of it's mindset.
And there's a strong task for us to give them that capability and confidence, because we don't want to say, where's your strategic workforce plan? And they look at us like we said something in a different language to them. It's like, no, that's your role to help create the strength and depth and so on. Anything else to add to that, Nithya, about the whole kind of leadership and the agendas? And
I mean, obviously leadership, plays a key role there. I think, when they role model some of these behaviors themselves, then, it opens up opportunities, for a lot of others. So we've had some lovely demonstrations about some tools and platforms and so on. And I think talent is a market where every time I look, there's like a new product out there. There's a new thing that can get you new insight about something. So what do we think about things like AI, whether it's generative or agentic, and just the whole sense of where technology can help us more strongly with the whole sense of what talent management, talent development in the 2020s kind of is? Any thoughts? Well, I mean, we do use co-pilot.
Okay.
And I think some of the things that the speaker from ABB said this earlier resonated with me as well.
Okay.
So we do use it for content creation. Just
Okay.
makes it faster. What took me like weeks would take me a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
So we do use that. We use analytics from surveys and so on. We still in a phase in the organization where we are encouraging different people to use that, experiment with it. I have a colleague here who's very passionate about it as well. So,
Nice.
so that's the stage we are in. But of course, at the end, it complements, it helps us.
Of course,
But we do have to have those conversations on context and aspirations. We're still there. So we're not, I would say,
No.
100% there.
No.
We want to be. We want to use those and make it easier. It's happening.
But there's a kind of maturity and a utilization thing that's kind of growing every day. And I think it was Josh Burson who talked about the fact that we would have like real-time talent dashboards not that far away from us, where we could almost pull a few sliders and press a few buttons and put some criteria, and it'll tell us who we've got who can do this new thing that's coming along. So I'm not sure we're quite there yet. It feels a bit Star Trek teleport, but we'll kind of get there. Yeah, tech and the work you've been involved in?
So for our new global strategy, we're implementing Copilot. So I would say we're at the beginning stages. So we're upskilling, let's say, on the very basics. We also have our own chat GPT, so chat BASF.
Yeah, nice.
But what I've done with my team, because I think it's about leadership also taking responsibility and utilizing it. So I've challenged my team to use it, and then we come back to our team meetings and we discuss.
Yeah, good.
Just to get comfortable, because they say if you don't use it, then you get left behind, especially in this digital age.
Sure.
And I don't want them left behind, so we're practicing.
And I think
the tools now.
I think we're starting to see a little bit more of a kind of use case approach coming through, where we are able to share as a community often what's going on with that. But no doubts it is a brilliant way to kind of tailor, shortcut, and really strengthen communications, and then actually the probing and the utilization and the mapping that can come from it, I think is something that we are at the beginning of the beginning, really, aren't we? So, cool. Right, we got some time. So, the interactive thing you were so good at earlier on. Don't let me down now. Should we do a little bit of exchanging stuff here? Because talent is a thing that I genuinely believe is a kind of real ace in the pack for us to play in what we can do to add value in organizations. And I don't think business leaders have got the answers they need, and I think they're going to start looking to us for a little bit more dynamism and a little bit more certainty around talent. So let's kind of thrash some thoughts out if you've got some. Any thoughts? Don't think about the break yet, right? The break will come. Earn your break. Yes, we have a question here. Thank you.
Can you share some tips and tricks so that the business doesn't roll their eyes when you say?
Oh, see, that's a lovely question, because when you said the roll the eyes thing, I was like, what a test that is. So come on then, let's reveal the Marquisa playbook.
Well, I think it starts with like relationship building and really building credibility and understanding their teams in the business. And then providing solutions and being able to translate that so that they understand what the impact would be, right? It sounds very general, but I think I learned this from being in this business and supporting it for like the past 10 years. And so I knew the people, I knew the challenges, I understood. And so it was easier to have these conversations, sometimes difficult, on the importance of why we need to do these things, and also understanding from them what's meaningful to them. And usually if you can find a few allies, that also helps. So there's a few that will take talent and really they're very good at it, and I find those are the easiest to help influence the others, the naysayers.
Good point.
And if you can get a naysayer on your team as well, that's always
good point.
that's always a good one.
Yeah, there is something as well that they can be your critical friend. Like, would some people who are not you roll their eyes? Because if not, I'm on it. You can.
Yeah, they're good challenge partners, and I think when you really think about partnering with the business and speaking the language of the business, then I would take things to certain leaders and say, okay, tell me, what do you think about this?
Nice.
And they would give me their insights, and then when we discussed it as a leadership team, it was a different kind of conversation, and also aligning with your senior leader and understanding what they need done as well, and also giving them something to think about.
Nice. I think it's a different kind of check-in that we heard from earlier on, right? Nithya, anything on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's also about creating space for doing that, because I think, I can't remember who mentioned it, that we're all so busy doing so many things that if you don't have the space to, build a culture of continuous improvement, for example, or culture of development, where leaders role model that, I think it's, really key. For example, September, we took this whole top 150 in Alstrom to the middle of the forest in Finland, where, we really looked at what is the purpose of the organization, and what are, as leaders, your strengths, your vulnerabilities, be open about that and see how you can get the organization achieve its purpose. And I think building that connection, and cultivating it, and I can tell you, 1 week without laptops, I don't think I've ever done that, in years.
Wow.
And it was really a gift of time. And building that reflection time, giving it space, and different organizations do it differently. But I think that's important. It has to be intentional. It doesn't happen by accident.
Do you think you could get away with that? A week without laptops, take them away? Anyway, did you have something to add? Yeah.
I would, and I would also say another tip, which I've had to also learn as well, especially when you're going through a lot of change, is as passionate HR professionals, we have all these great ideas and we know what the possibilities are, but I've also learned that we also have to scale and sometimes negotiate to meet the business where they are. Sometimes they're just not ready for what we know could be possible, and maybe there will be a point in time, and sometimes you have to manage our own expectations to say, right now we're only going to do this part, and somehow be okay with that, but be ready when the time comes to maybe elevate some of the practices.
And then I'm going to give you one tip as well that I've found works. Preempt your discussion with somebody who might roll their eyes by saying, I'm going to show you something that I think is going to be good, and I want you to tell me what you're most comfortable with it and what you're least comfortable with it. Because you won't get an eye roll reaction then, because they're thinking about what they're most comfortable with and what they're least comfortable with. They won't just dismiss you, and they won't even entertain the fact that it might be too complex for them, to your point. They'll tell you where they are with it. And I think you might have a little bit more to leverage than just a roll eyes, get out of my face, HR. You're inflicting another thing on me. You know what I mean? You don't want that to happen, do you? Cool. This is good, this question stuff, isn't it? I like it. Oh, we got one over there. Thank you.
I was wondering, how do you do talent reviews in 2025? So how often do you do it? Is it HR-driven, business-driven? Do you use AI or special tools?
Did I hear the coffee being poured? No, I'm joking. So yeah, that's that is $1 million question, right? But I love it. So what do you think?
At Alstrom, we do have a process, in place that we look at, we spend time looking at talent, the executive management team actually, takes days to look at, and talk about people. So those forums do exist, but what we're trying to do is make it more ongoing feedback, ongoing dialogue. So that's the, route that we are going towards. But I must say we still do, those
formal.
Those formal processes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, one talent pool would be, like a plant management. We are a manufacturing organization, doing specialty materials. So, we have plants all over the world, and plant management is one such talent pool.
Marquise, on that?
Our process is annual. It's segmented by our regionals and global business units and functions. They usually happen late Q2, beginning of Q3. It rolls up, and then throughout the year. So we look at it. We use Visier to collect all the data, so success factors to Visier. And that's our single point of truth. And then we also take that and we also look at it from a community standpoint. So controlling supply chain operations, just a few job families. And then that's where we partner with the global, let's say, BASF community for those specific job families. So it's annual, and then succession planning is supposed to be part of that. Sometimes it's decoupled depending on what's going on. And then we go from there, but it's more annual, and there should be some sort of check in between, because once a year just isn't enough, in my opinion.
We do all of it together, succession, talent reviews and everything. What we also do is a bit of a SWOT to see, how does our pipeline look like, what's working well, what's not working well in certain areas. So it becomes, a bit of a forum for that discussion.
And I remember maybe like 8, 9, 10 years ago, we've abandoned performance management, they say, and we don't do reviews, they say, but they quietly introduced them back again because guess what? They didn't have anything to replace it. So I think it is abandon with care, right? And think about what matters to people. And we heard some clues in the earlier example from Work Human on here, which is like that regularity thing, in the moment thing. And the other thing I really want us to do with performance reviews, it's my performance review. It's not my line manager doing it to me, it's mine. I want to own it. I want to drive it. I want to pull the manager in when I want the manager in. I want to pull my colleagues in to give me feedback. Why don't we do that? Why don't we give it to the individual? Why don't we give them agency to drive their own performance review? And if they don't care, we don't care either. But we do, because we'll say, you're not looking after yourself. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe AI could do it. We can have a report bot that just pops up and says, I'm going to give you some feedback. No, I'm joking. Right, we've still got 20 minutes. Yeah, we've got one over there, and then we've got one over there. And, we've got 3 in one go. Right, okay, cool. So I'll come to you next and then go to Mark.
Yeah, I'm also in global functions. And I guess one of my questions are, how do you ensure the visibility of talent across the business? Because I find that we are very good at finding talent in the different functions and we do across. But if we want them to move across, how are you working with it across the business?
I would like to make that question an internet meme and have everybody answer it, because it's such a good one. Yeah. It really is, isn't it? Yeah. Go for it.
I think it's, how we've done it at Alstom is really have, discussions where we look at potential that is enterprise-wide, right? I mean, how can we have people that can move across? There are some people that want to move, some perhaps not, if I've, for example, spent, 20 years in HR, maybe I'm not, looking at a business role tomorrow, but there are people who are interested in that. And I think it's understanding, what do we have, what's our pool? And, are people even aware that that's an option? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the, first key thing. And we also, aside from the formal forums, we also, talk, at the next level, for example, with HRBPs managing, each of these areas, look at, who's on the move, what are their aspirations, are there areas which are easier, jumping points into another function or business, and then, grow within that. So we've had people from finance move to operations, but then on the S&OP side, which has a link, between both areas. So it's really finding those linking points, listening, understanding people's aspirations, and I think the willingness at the leadership level to make those moves happen. I think that's absolutely key.
That sounds
so there's
really...
no one answer, there's no one formula that we follow, but it's a combination of all of these things.
And that sounds really culturally evident in your organisation, so people kind of know it's there, right? But not every company does. A lot of talent stuff is in secret, behind closed doors and on grids and stuff. And then, to your point then, who knows? Like, what? Or well known in the function. Yeah. Or across functions, but not exactly. Yeah. Cool. Marquise, anything to add to that?
So for us, what we did to try to operationalize it and make it a bit more transparent, because even within our own HR community, we were having these secret discussions that no one knew what was happening, because we call it a Staff X meeting, PM Staff X meeting. And so my team, myself and my team, so my team lead for mobility, as well as for talent management, we sit in on that meeting and we listen to the positions that are being presented, as well as the delegations that are going up to the president for approval. So we're hearing the conversations, and we're also part of managing our, let's say, global communities. And so we listen in and also work with our HR business partners to say, okay, what about this person? And we've actually put more action around, specifically who's going to go back and talk to said business leader and then come back the next meeting with an update on the action. So we tried to drive more accountability within our own function, and that should permeate out to the business, because then we can have more discussions and get a bit more transparency, so we know exactly where to push a little or ask different types of questions. It's not easy though, but part of the question is the business even open to moving someone globally for it? And if the business can afford it, then they have to make the business case, but we also try to present different options and make some connections there.
I like it that you're almost like, not auditing, but do you know what I mean? You're kind of stewarding and just sense checking.
Or their accountability partner.
Exactly, there you go, there you go. Love that phrase, yeah. It is so complex though, isn't it? So, I mean, that is a question, again, I think we'll ponder along with the how do we measure the success thing, right? Mark, I think, over here, yes, and then I'll come to you, Mark, sorry, yeah.
Hi, so I'm Nadia and I work for Diageo. And I was actually based in London before and moved to Amsterdam and kind of had my own stretch assignment, let's say. And one of the things that I struggled with was when I was living in the UK, I'm from the UK, I knew, the culture and I knew what would land well. And I think when you talked about potential requires risk taking, what I found in our Northern Europe market is that across cultures, a lot of cultures can be resistant to risk taking. And so how do you navigate the increase in the need for risk taking across such geographical complexity?
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer to it. I'm sorry, yeah, there's no easy answer to it. I think, we just need to, when we move people, it's important that we give them the right support. Both culturally, looking at, how do we make that person a success? And that's, our responsibility as well. We can't just drop someone in a different country and forget and expect that they will thrive. So I think it's really also making sure that we provide them the tools, the opportunity for them to say, I have a problem. We had someone from Finland move to Wisconsin, which is, from a culture point of view, very, very different.
Yeah.
From a climate point of view, he was like perfectly happy with it. But I think it's, so these moves happen, but I think it's about making sure that, we handhold and guide, but I don't, have an easy answer to it, unfortunately.
Wow, do you?
Well, I would say for our delegates specifically, I actually started doing roundtables. So we have about 100 plus delegates globally. And so I would sort them by region and I would have them come and I said, so how's it going? And they would, it had never been done. People were like, oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me. And so I wanted to know how it was working from a pure mobility standpoint.
Yep.
And then I would start asking questions about, okay, so what type of development discussions do you have? And do you know what your role is in the process? So that's kind of from a delegate, which is a very, very small population. I would say living in a different part of the world, it's understanding what they can tolerate based on their own culture. And it's so different depending on where you are and what the labor market is and how fast people move and what the options are. And my team actually was just working with the business in Europe because we didn't have like a talent program. In all the other regions, we had some sort of program for those identified. And so we co-created something with our business leaders for EMEA to have some sort of experience for our talent. So I think it's understanding what their needs are and seeing what we can deliver that's palatable.
Love that, because I think in the panel earlier on we talked about communities and partnerships. This is a great example where a community makes a lot of sense in the people who are part of it and the risks that you can manage through it and with it. I think there's something in that, isn't there? So whatever you do to create like mobility groups and alumni, people who've done it, and there's a lot of conversational, relational stuff, I think, at the heart of what you say. I can't think of a business process that's going to solve that risk thing. I think it's a relational thing, isn't it? I think it's a human thing. So lovely question, though.
In my previous organization, we had a vendor that used to help,
There's suppliers that can do lots of the pastoral care and all the kind of cool stuff
but
as well.
of course, it doesn't, the organizational element, is missing from that.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thank you for that. Mark, we'll come to you.
Thanks. I have a follow-up for Nitya. I also have one tip that someone gave me once on this question. So maybe
it's good value.
Yeah. So taking risk on people is a bit conceptual thing, right? People like it, but you don't really know what it means. What helps is to find an example of someone that they know that had a stretch move and then refer to that person. And I find that works quite well. Like, do you want another person like that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, good point.
Anyway, sorry.
Matching. Nice.
The follow-up for you on the talent pool specifically for plant managers. It's interesting, plants are usually in different sites. So how do you qualify people to be in the plant manager talent pool, and what do you do with the people that are on that list?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's work in progress now. So let me first qualify it with that. And what we're trying to do is not, call it a plant manager talent pool, to not set expectations, but rather, look at it more as, plant leadership or, plant talent, whatever, we call it. And I think the idea is, of course, with plant managers, the challenges that we find is mobility for a large part, of people moving from one location to the other. But I think what we're now trying to see is really, let's give them the opportunity, give them the tools, and let's see, how, we have a view on what the actual pipeline is. Because now I think what's often happening is the view is we don't have a pipeline, but whether that's really true, it's something, we have to invest and find out, which is why we're now working with pools to basically see, let's keep it as broad as possible and not already, cut the population by saying, we only want people that are mobile, we only want people, that are. So we're keeping it as broad as possible to see that we have more opportunities coming up through that.
Nice.
No, it's not self-nominated, so it is, through a nomination process.
Like a ticket, yeah, cool. I've got one client who has an engineering business and they're just on the precipice of a cliff because of aging workforce, and they haven't backfilled and they can't backfill. They should have started their process at least 5 years ago in the way that you just described. And then I've got another one who refuses to go down the route of like for like and is creating a series of fractional posts in different specialist areas. They're saying the demand for people to come in on a fractional basis is way stronger than they anticipated. So talent pooling using fractionals, not hardwired full-time employees, is starting to really grow as a tactic. So there's something in that too. Cool. One more. And then should we do coffee light early and have a bit longer time? Would you like that?
Oh, thank you. I think it's more a comment about talent pool. My observation is that managers are too narrow on who they want to pick.
Oh, yeah.
They are looking for a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And they look 2 years long for a perfect fit instead of looking for a 60, 70 fit.
Work in
maybe,
progress,
or even less. Instead
That's
of
true.
looking for
Yeah.
a capability to
Yeah,
grow
love
and
it.
to learn
Yeah,
as
love it.
one strong pillar.
Yeah.
They want to have a person who is able to do everything from
Yeah.
day one.
Yeah.
And I believe this is a big mistake because this is demotivating organization and young talent. And this
Yeah.
is not in the mindset of believing in failure.
Yeah.
And it is not fostering a culture of learning in organization.
Yeah.
If this is the way a manager wants to fulfill, so to say, his workforce.
Yeah. That's
And it's dangerous.
That's a really good observation, isn't it? Until we master Neuralink that can be copied into a synthetic human copy, that ain't going to happen, is it? So anything to reflect on that, about the whole sense of like total fit versus work in progress and so on?
No, I mean, you're absolutely, right. And I think that, at the end, that's what risk taking is about, that we don't look for this perfect fit, that we look for, potential, which means the ability to grow, the ability to, adapt and learn new things. Because, I mean, growth mindset is one of our values. And I think, that's absolutely key, because once you start restricting, and that's the thing, right? You think you don't have a pipeline, but perhaps they're all sitting, you're just not taking the risk.
Yeah, nice. Anything?
I think this also comes back to leader capability.
Yeah,
It's like a paradigm shift, right? It's the leader mindset, it's their capability to assess talent, and having a comfort level in really being able to develop talent, which is a whole nother skill set in itself. And often the business doesn't allow for that kind of space to do that. So I think that's where, as HR, we really can partner and support to say, okay, this is what the plan could look like to bring someone in. That's maybe a little bit different. So think about your team differently. You probably have lots of other people, just like the person that left. So let's think about how this person could add, and what do we need to do to create the environment for both parties to be successful. Easier said than done. It's preaching to the choir, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to go against evidence-based and anti-bias stuff or anything, but there are leaders that have this sixth sense about what somebody's capable of, and they end up delivering more potentially. We don't want to kill that either, but we want to make sure it's stress tested and it's equitable and so on. But I'm totally with you on the whole principle, really, that we've got to get leaders up in the game on like the participation side of talent, not just the contracting it with you for you to provide all the components for it. Let's get them a bit more active on that one. that's been really cool. Like I lost myself in that conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you. You know, we said earlier on we were supposed to be 4, but there were 2. But I think it was a depth of perhaps quality that came from that. So I'd love to show appreciation to Marquisa and Nithya. Thank you very much.